Greetings, people. I come in peace. Last weekend, Eddie Hearn's 2 prospects got beaten. Does Eddie Hearn get his fighters beat? Does he put his prospects in hard fights too soon? Eddie has been heavily criticised for matching his prospects in tough fights before they're ready. Is it fair criticism? I can see the concern personally. Eddie says if his prospects are good enough, they should be beating the opponents they are matched with.
If you can't beat those level guys, you aren't or you weren't good enough on the night. Right?
In this case, he was talking about Jalil Hackett and Mark Castro, who both lost by split decision. Hackett was in his 10th fight against Jose Roman Vasquez, who was in his 15th fight and had 1 loss by decision and is considered, by his record anyway, to be a non-puncher. Jalil, up until that point, was displaying the attributes of a big puncher, with 7 knockouts out of 9 fights. A good percentage. It might have been too soon for Hackett, but I think it was a reasonable gamble. He did have the punch stats on his side and only a 5-fight deficit. I say only, but that's 5 less lessons to study, ruminate, examine and survey your craft. At the start of your career, that could be a huge difference. Some people learn faster than others, and I suppose that should be considered when matchmaking. It's not that a slower learner is necessarily less talented. It could be because a certain fighter is more methodical, introverted, or apprehensive, and those extra bouts will build certainty and confidence. Then there's fighters who are naturally confident in their ability and want to move on quickly, and that's when the coach, manager, promoter will have to do a truthful and objective assessment on whether to take the risk. Not everybody can be a Lomachenko that hit the floor running. So it's a tricky business matching prospects so that they are learning and being challenged, but not being outclassed and beaten up and disheartened before they've even got into a groove. A hard test is priceless to a young fighter to prove to themselves and others that they have the resilience to go far, to become champion. I think I would have given Jalil 1 more comfortable fight before this one, but I think it was still a reasonable bout to make. The Mark Castro fight was a little more of an unsafe speculative route to take. His opponent Augustin Quintana had more knockouts than Mark had fights. Quintana had 20 fights previously with 13 KOs. Mark Castro had 12 fights with 8 KOs. The same percentage as Augustin, but with 8 less fights to learn from. Keep in mind, Augustin is from Argentina, which is notorious for producing very tough fighters, journeymen, that come to fight, come to win. I think Eddie is genuinely peeved off and annoyed that they didn't win. And as he said, it does expose some flaws in their abilities, but they're learning. A balance has to be struck between the eager restlessness to find a champion, that diamond in the rough, and patiently nurturing one. Yet we don't want to go to the other extreme, where prospects are still fighting anemic opponents in their 30th fight and racking up a 90% knockout ratio without ever being tested.
If you don't want to watch competitive fights, if you don't want to see prospects tested just a little bit when they're 8-1 on, watch my shows, because I'm going to give you real fights.
Eddie could be a bit more cautious and circumspect with his matchmaking, but his ideology and principles for his prospects are sound. It might come across as a bit ruthless.
Not every prospect is going to go on and be a world champion, but if you spoon feed them and never put them in anything competitive, 1, it's a shit product, 2, it's a con for the fans, and 3, you're not doing the right job for the fighter, because when they get to the top, they're not going to be good enough. Do you know what I'm saying?
He's filtering out the unprofessional, the prima donnas, the egotists, and the juvenile delinquents. When you think about it, you can't get away with being a delusional emperor at Matchroom, because it will be a matter of time before you are unveiled and denuded. As a boxing fan, I want to see good fights. competitive fights.
Sport. You get beat when you're not good enough. You know what I'm saying? You don't just make matchups that are shit, where you can't lose. It's shit. It's shit for the sport. It's shit for the prospect.
The cream will rise to the top. And in this era of manufactured fighters, manufactured everything, we need to start seeing honest champions.
Right? Listen to me. You want to be in this game, you've got to prove you're good enough to be on these cards and at this level.
Hackett and Castro are good fighters that will learn from their defeats, will knuckle down and hone their skills.
Great, isn't it? We're on again next month.
Forget that.
Forget it. The world is your lobster, my son. You've got a new career. People's champion.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Please subscribe. But remember, choose life.
I think positive always. I believe I can do anything, and boxing's been it is my business, and it's been my business. I don't know all the answers, but I'm the greatest authority in the world on Sugar Ray Robinson, and I have some idea on just what he can do and what he can't do.